Unless you like burning money, or like if you like just giving money to the toilet and flushing it.
Yeah.
Yes. It's going to cost you that much to be able to drive your car.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
did we insult you with any of your favorite cars?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope not, but it's... Well, actually, I don't really care because it's factually true.
yeah, factually
Like,
true.
it's just how it is. I mean, if you get mad at this, I'm sorry. Like, but actually, no, I'm not sorry.
Facts
I
don't care about your feelings.
It's crazy. I mean, you can't get mad. It's factually true.
Yeah.
These are not good cars. And if you get offended by this, go kick rocks.
Kick rocks and
go live in your
pound
fantasy world where your E60 will never break.
Yeah.
It will break.
Welcome to Xcelerate. I'm Aiden.
And I'm Ivo.
And today we're going to be talking about cars that we want to own, or that we would buy.
I will
Or
own.
we wouldn't buy. We really want to own, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to buy.
I will do it because I'm not a quitter.
I wouldn't. So, anyways, let's get started. Ivo, why don't you go first?
I probably have the most famous example of a car that everybody wants or should have,
Mm-hmm.
but you really shouldn't have because it's just, unless you like burning money,
Yes.
or like if you like just giving money to the toilet and flushing it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm talking about one of the most famous sedans of all time,
What's that?
the E60 BMW M5. You could also put the E63 M6 in this too, but I like the M5 specifically. I have a love-hate relationship with this car. I've been around a lot of them. I've driven a lot of them. They sound amazing when they work. They drive really nice. It's such a, like, the power band is so linear on that car because it revs to like 8,500 too.
Like I told you earlier, I was looking at a second car. I would have the Tesla and then the second
Yeah,
car.
don't buy an E60.
I looked at E60 M5s.
Oh, no.
And they're good price.
Oh, yeah.
Good
yeah.
price, great
Why,
price.
though? Why?
It's so tempting because they sound fantastic.
Especially with an exhaust.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
They sound fantastic, but they are some of the most dumb purchasing decisions for a vehicle you could make. You're better off buying an '08 Bentley Continental than an E60 M5. It's just horrendously a bad decision.
There are people out there that I've read in the comments. I watched this one guy on YouTube. He fixes only BMWs. Super cool guy, lives in Germany. And there's people in the comments who are like, oh, the E60 is great. People are blowing it out of proportion. No, bro. It's
No,
not
it's
being blown out
horrible.
of proportion. It is horrible. I mean, when the manufacturer tells you have to do rod bearings every 50,000 miles,
That's not a normal.
that's
service
not a
item.
normal service on a car.
No, it's not.
Like, let's put it in contrast to a car that competed directly against it. My E55, the motor has 200,000 miles. Have I done rod bearings?
No. If you have to remove the engine from the car as a service, it's not a service. It's a repair.
Why? I've looked into this because I went down a rabbit hole. I was like, why is this a thing? And a lot of people apparently were saying because of the tolerances that are so tight. But I'm like, bro, it doesn't matter.
When you have an engine that's that high revving.
Well, it's a race engine. It was supposed to be a Lamar race engine.
When you have an engine that's that high revving and that high performing, the tolerances have to be so tight to be able to keep up with the performance, or else it won't be able to rev to 8,500 RPM.
Well, it also didn't help. They told people to use like 5W30 oil in
Yeah.
it, which is not what you're supposed to do. I think the oil is like 1060.
There's ways to avoid it, like if you let the car warm up and the oil actually get through, because a lot of the problems are caused with the rod bearings by people starting it, not letting the car warm up, and just going because there's no the oil doesn't
That goes
heat
back
up
to
enough.
the whole issues with this car. The car has issues that we're not debating
Yeah.
that. A lot of these issues were accelerated by just poor ownership.
Oh yeah, that's
Because
what I mean.
you're some attorney, you're some doctor, whatever. You like BMWs, you like 5 Series, but you want the
M5.
the big daddy. You walk into BMW in 2006 and you're like, I want this. You get a brown one with a like brown interior because you know you're that guy, and then you lease it. You don't care about this car,
Right.
You leased it for 3 years.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
Who
you beat the
cares?
living crap out of it.
Yeah.
You don't let it warm up. You don't think about the rod bearing service that needs to be done. And by the way, you can live on the stock rod bearings if you let the car warm up for 5 minutes before you drive it. Because the issue is those tolerances are so tight that what was going on is people start the car, they don't let it warm up, the oil doesn't get to circulate through the entire engine, and then they just go, which means not enough oil got around, and it would, shred those rod bearings, and they'd end up you know.
There's a lot of factors in it, but it's not just that. You know, it has rod bearing issues. You have van house problems.
Oh yeah.
The van house is its own thing. It's a cool system. It's basically like
And they still use it.
VTEC.
It's VTEC, but
Yeah.
way better.
And
In theory, it's way better.
it's it's just Germanified. It's complicated. And you have these van house lines that go bad. When they go bad, it doesn't feed oil to the van house adjusters. It's just
Van
the
House,
motor itself is just it's too complicated.
It's a time bomb for multiple different reasons.
It's just too complicated to be in a sedan that everybody
Yeah.
could buy. Like if this was a supercar,
Oh yeah.
okay, fine. But it's in a sedan that now I could go and buy for 10 grand from Copart
Right.
with minor damage, and then people buy them, and that's why the car has such a bad reputation.
Yeah.
That's why all the German cars have bad reputation, because you're buying a car that was 120 grand new for 10 grand, and then you're like, why is it breaking?
Well, shouldn't you at that point just go buy an S6 with the V10?
Yeah.
At that
They
point, if
also
you
have
want-
problems, though.
if
They have
you
their own
want
ordeal.
a little more reliable engine,
If you want a reliable,
Get an
fast
S6.
sedan from the 2000s, just buy an E55.
or that too, yeah.
I mean,
Don't get an M5 or an S6, because the truth is with the M5, which is like the best, while it works,
it's
it
so
is the
good.
best sounding car for
So
the
good.
money, and it I think it looks good. I know that's a
I love
controversial
the
opinion.
Bangalore
way it
cars.
looks,
Yeah, I love Bangalore cars.
but it's just
Maybe it's because I grew up with them. That's probably why. But yeah, no, that's my first one, and I love the car. I will
Yeah.
buy one. The problem is you can't buy that car, and that's your only car.
yeah.
Because you will never go anywhere.
Yeah, that's the point. That's why I was thinking second car. Is because it's not, if it breaks, then I have another car that will work on it.
If it breaks, you're like, okay, I was expecting this.
Right.
Also, that's very important. If you buy any of the cars on this list,
Yeah.
don't come back in the comments and say these gentlemen told me to buy this car. We did not tell you to buy this car.
Yeah, don't
we
buy
told you
these.
buy this car, but expect problems
Yeah.
because they will come. It's like dating somebody who's just had horrible
Yeah. Dating
horrible
experience.
dating experience and all that, and they're just a bag of like trauma.
Yeah.
Like you're asking for trouble.
Right.
Like you want that. You know what I mean? They're toxic. There's just red flags everywhere. That's
the
you buying an
E60
M5.
yeah.
That's you buying one.
Well, our
Oh.
rule was to keep it under 100 grand, and this one is under 100 grand now.
It could classify as that. It depends on where you look.
It depends on where you look. It's quite
Fancy and classy
it's
British.
Yep. Fancy, classy British is going to be the first production car for the production market that McLaren ever made. For the
Well-
United States, right?
You can't say that. The F1.
Okay, the F1, but under $1 million.
Well, the F1 was under $1 million.
Was it?
Yeah, they couldn't sell them. They were giving them away for 200 grand.
Yeah.
Jay Leno said, that's a famous story. He goes, I bought one for 200 grand. Now it's worth 30 million. Talk about a return on investment.
When would the F1 come out?
93, I think.
Okay, so this is the first one in almost 20 years that McLaren came out, because it came out, I think, 20.
Well, the first one they solely designed.
Yeah,
Because the
yeah.
F1 used the BMW V12.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so first fully in-house McLaren was the MP4-12C. This thing.
The only thing every time somebody says MP4-12C, the thing I think of is Doug DeMuro trying to review one, and he couldn't open the damn door because the thing doesn't work. Like you're
Yeah.
just doing there, you're going there like this.
It was such an ambitious project by McLaren, and it looked fantastic for the time.
Sounds really good.
And it sounds really good for 2012. That car looked fantastic.
Yeah.
It was the one
And
of
it was
the
fast.
and it was fast.
It was faster than the 458 and the Gallardo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful, fast, great sounding car. But as we all know with McLarens, they're not as unreliable as they used to be. They got the same build quality issues, but the MP4-12C is just a freaking mess of a car. I know Strad bought one, and then
right?
Yeah,
I
and
think
then he
so,
got rid of it 2 months later or something.
Well,
like that.
all these YouTubers have right now. My favorite YouTuber right now is Legit Street Cars. He builds like broken cars from the auction. He builds them and all that. He has one. He bought it from JR's garage.
Mhm.
It's wrapped it's factory color is like satin blue. It's an MP4-12C with a really nice like dark blue interior. It works now, but
Now.
when he got it, the clock spring didn't work. The turn signals didn't work. The car was
Yeah,
misfiring.
it's an electronics issue with that car.
Oh, and guess what?
100%.
This is really funny. He discovered this. He did a tune up on it, changed spark plugs and the ignition coils. Guess what the ignition coils are from? He went to McLaren. They're like, yeah, it's about $800 an ignition coil. The same ignition coil is used on a Nissan Versa. It's a Nissan ignition coil that they got rid of the Nissan logo on it. So he went to Nissan, or he went to AutoZone, bought like 8 of them at like $5 a piece.
And they worked.
They work perfectly.
Yeah, the McLaren. So the biggest thing with a lot of the British cars is their electronics suck.
Yeah.
And the MP4-12C is the epitome of sucky electronics. The doors, like you said, don't work.
Well, you know what happens if the battery dies and the doors are closed? There's only one way to open it.
What's the way again?
There's a key. So you have a key.
Yes.
You put the key in the thing, and if you turn it, it'll destroy the window. Like it happens every time.
That's right. Yes.
Like McLaren says, this will happen.
Yeah.
Which, okay, then the window's going to cost you like $5,000.
Yeah.
It's like what?
It's a great value, and the car is at what 30% of its list MSRP from its original.
It's way
MSRP.
less. That car was expensive. It was over $200,000.
Yeah.
You could pick them up for like I think 70 or 80 now. Honestly.
Yeah. If you go and search really hard, you can get them in the 70s, and you're gonna have a great time for the first like 5 days you own it, and then it's going.
Maybe not.
It might
not
not even. You know what? It might not even start. Or you might not even be able to get the door open.
That's off of Hoovie's garage. He traded his. He had a Lamborghini Gallardo, perfect car, manual, everything. Traded it for an MP4. He traded it in. The car was broken when he traded it in towards it. It was at a McLaren dealership, but they replaced the transmission under warranty. But before he got rid of it, they replaced the transmission 3 more times under warranty. And the engine had been replaced twice under warranty. Why? McLarens are great. They sound really good. They're fast.
Oh, and they're some of the most beautiful cars on the planet.
I wouldn't go that far, but
I would.
But the problem is, it's like, is it half of your ownership? The car's gonna be in the shop.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. Even with McLarens today, they
still have reliability issues.
They still have reliability issues, and they have horrible build quality problems.
Yeah.
If you can pull the door panel easily off of your $350,000 McLaren 750S or 720S,
you talking about Alex Troy?
Huh?
Alex Troy, when he did that video?
You just pull the door panel off without any kind of effort, then you're in the wrong car. Because they just are so... They sound phenomenal. They drive phenomenally. Everybody loves McLarens, other than the Artura. But they just... To me, you're buying a car, used or new, you're buying a car that you just have to expect these problems on. I would buy a McLaren, just not the MP4-12C. 570S is a great deal.
My favorite one's a 675 LT.
Really?
I think they peaked there.
Really?
Yeah, I really do.
I think the 720S is my favorite out of all of them.
Yeah, the 675, I think it looks the best. It looks really good, and it's relatively reliable compared to other ones.
I would say, actually, the 765 LT is my favorite. It just is the most... I think it's so pretty. And it looks great, and it's fast, and it sounds phenomenal. If you want a good value McLaren that will have less problems, the 570S...
Or the 650.
Or the 650 are great. The one that they didn't make here in the United States is the 540C.
Yeah.
That isn't a phenomenal deal if you live in a country that actually has that car.
Not here, though.
Not here, though.
But let's move on because we've harping on McLaren for a little bit. But I will stick on that aisle or that side of the Atlantic with Britain. The Aston Martin Vanquish. And I'm talking about the early Vanquish, like 01, 02, 03. The one that was in James Bond. And the movie name escapes me. I should know it's because that's my favorite movie series. But it's just so good. I mean, it's so good, but you don't want to. You don't want to own it because they all came with that stupid. I don't know what Aston calls it, but the F1 style gearbox. It's slow. It sucks. It's not reliable, and it's just a British car from 2001. Like the electronics will not work. It just won't. Now what you can do is you could pay Aston Martin $60,000, and they'll manual swap it for you, and then it's a great car. Yeah, but the problem is, you could get them really cheap. Ed Bowling bought it for $40,000 from a Colombian drug lord.
Yeah, I remember that
for Car Trek. Yeah, they're. I think it's one of the most beautiful Astons ever made.
Aston Martin today is a lot better. Like,
it's because they use Mercedes.
They use Mercedes parts now. But but back then, man, Aston Martin stressed me.
Well, they were owned by Ford.
Yeah, when they were owned by Ford, along with Jaguar, when Ford owned that entire British conglomerate. All those cars had problems. Poor Jaguar Land Rover had so many problems.
You know the DB7 has it. DB7 and whatever the Jaguar's the XK, I think. Their steering wheel is from a Fox body.
Yes, and if you get in I don't even remember what car it is, but there's a lot of parts that share. they've shared so many parts back then. I mean, you got to think back in like when they came out with that V12.
Well, that's two V6 Duratex
Two
put together.
Duratex just slapped together. Sounds great. Nothing wrong with it. It just, yeah, back then Aston Martins just were problematic, and Ford was a lot to play with that. But anyways, okay, keeping on the topic of British,
Oh God, no.
Jaguar XKR. Sounds and looks great. I'm talking about the latest generation of the XKR.
Yeah, like 11, 12, 13.
Like 11, 12, not the previous one that looked like a Ford Taurus with the Ford Taurus front end. I'm talking about the one from like 2000 and like 2012.
11, yeah.
They looked phenomenal.
They did.
They were pretty cars. They were super luxurious, and they sounded fantastic. Unfortunately, ticking time bomb and electronics problems. Just so many problems with
That
that car.
5-liter Jaguar Land Rover V8 with the supercharger on it, it sounds really good.
So good.
But it's such a turd.
The thing is,
Timing chain guides, freaking head gaskets.
yep.
Like, bro, come on. It is so bad.
And the thing is, with modern Jaguar and Land Rover, they switched to the 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8, the N63, and they did that for a more like streamlined process, better engine, everything like that. But it's not better. You still chose a super unreliable V8 to replace your 5-liter with, and I would honestly rather you kept the 5-liter because the 5-liter sounded better. So you just chose another unreliable engine to slap in your cars. It's more reliable than the 5-liter, but it's the N63 is still dog.
It's the N63.
But like the 5-liter back then sounded like it just is such a good sounding car.
Yeah.
And it looks so good, and you can pick them up for a pretty decent price. Like I think 50s is now, right?
What, XKRs?
Yeah, like-
no, like 20s.
Yeah, 20.
20s,
Less than
30s.
less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're dirt cheap, but there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Like they're not. It's not a reliable car.
I would have picked the F-Type, but the F-Type is a little better when it comes to like electronics problems and reliability problems. And I didn't want to pick the F-Type because they're still up there in price, especially if you get like an F-Type Type R or an F-Type R. So I wanted to stay from that. But XKR, fantastic car. Just not there.
Not there. Not it. I mean, it's very, like, why? You have to sit there and ask yourself, like, Jag, why?
It's from that period of Jaguar where I think a lot of the stuff, like that's when like they had the what was it? The XJ.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic luxury car. But
Same motor.
same motor, same problems. The XJ was hideous. Those headlights were hideous. That car was ugly. So the XK was the nicest and best looking car Jaguar had at the time. And I just the XS was also hideous back then. But yeah. Jaguar XKR. That was my second one. Fantastic car. Not buying it.
Now, for my third one, I'm going to stick European. You notice a trend. This is European.
Yeah.
We're going to hop in our car and we're going to cruise through the Alps to the beautiful, beautiful weather of Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And now the car I'm going to talk about, people are going to be like, you're a moron, because everybody loves this car. The Alfa Romeo GTV, which is just,
Really?
I love that car. I really do. It's got the 3-liter Busso V6. Sounds so good. When you open the hood, it's a piece of art. It's amazing. But it's Italian. That's all I need to say. It's Italian. Like, that's it. You should know everything by that. Electronics are never going to work. The car's going to leak water. It might not even run right. It might catch on fire. But it's pretty to look at. That's how Italian cars have always been. I mean, there's a really famous segment out there where it's the Top Gear trio. Like, this is from like 2008, 2009. They're doing like a drive through Monte Carlo. May has an Aston Martin like race car. Hammond has a GT3 RS, and then what do you call it? Jezza, he brought a Superleggera Gallardo, and he's like, you know, Volkswagen owns Lamborghini now. They designed the whole car. It's beautiful. Everything works right. He goes, but they had to let the Italians do something, and they designed the fuel cap. And guess what didn't work the whole time?
The fuel cap.
The fuel cap would not open. He goes, the one thing the Italians designed didn't work.
Ever since Lambo was bought by Volkswagen, Lambo's been a very reliable brand.
It's just so crazy. Or this other one where they're talking about the same car, and they're like, yeah, Volkswagen designed the whole Gallardo. It's a beautiful, reliable car. He goes, then they let the Italians design the brochure for the car. And it's like, it has a 1,000 horsepower. It's fast. And it's like, they just show crazy looking pictures and all this, Italian stuff. But then the actual car is so reliable because it's German.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that car. I love the Alpha GTV. It's in my opinion, it's such a pretty car. And the Busso sounds so good. But it's an Italian car from the early 2000s. I mean, it's just, pick your poison.
Right.
Maserati, Alfa, Ferrari. It doesn't matter.
Funny that you mentioned that because I'm going to go Italian.
Oh, really? What's your car?
Maserati Gran Turismo.
Interesting. At least the Gran Turismo didn't have the F1.
At least it wasn't a Dodge Charger with a different body.
Yeah.
You want to talk about one of the worst European brands on the planet right now to buy from. That is so incredibly overpriced that their cars lose 90% of their value in the first 5 years of ownership. Looking at you, Ghibli. But we're not talking about the Ghibli. We're talking about the Maserati Gran Turismo.
Sounds awesome.
It sounds fantastic, and the new one I have really high hopes for.
I think the new one's a V6.
It is a V6.
Hybrid? Yeah.
Yes, but it sounds good. But we're talking about the V8. Ferrari-derived V8.
The motor's pretty good.
Motor's good. Everything else, not so much. It looks fantastic, and it sounds fantastic. Everything else sucks. Let's talk about the fact that it had a phone dial pad until, 2013? Where you could dial someone's phone number into the console? What a horrible car if you care about electronics. And if you want to hold, if you bought one new, you would have kept the value for a little bit because they didn't lose their value immediately. But just recently, they've gotten cheaper. And if you bought one new and you have it, or if you bought one 3 years ago and you still have it, you're probably underwater like $10,000 or $20,000. Those things are trash. They are nightmares to maintain. Their electronics problems are horrible. The only saving grace is their motor, and they sound great. At least, like you said, it didn't have an F1 gearbox. But their gearbox wasn't that great either.
It was a ZF 8-speed.
I thought they had problems.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. ZF really just started getting their stuff together recently with the new ZF 8-speed.
We had that conversation last week or 2 weeks ago where it was like we were talking about what transmission Dodge used and when they started using the ZF 8-speed. And I was just like,
isn't Maserati owned by the FCA group?
Yes.
Crazy how
they all have problems. Yes. So when SCA bought Maserati, Ferrari for a short period of time, they don't like to talk about that. When they bought Maseratis, when everything went to just hell, it went horrible.
I mean, it makes no sense to me why these people, and it's always the same kind of people that buy these Ghiblis and then think they're hot shit.
I don't like
bro, you drive an over expensive Charger.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Unfortunately, I've seen it firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
You
have.
Yeah. They are money pits. I mean, okay, a Ghibli I wouldn't buy, but we could talk about the Ghibli because that is the epitome of stupidity of that brand. I remember watching the original, I remember in high school I thought they were cool because it was a Maserati and you could get them for cheap. But and then I watched the Doug DeMuro video on it. And when he stuck a tube of toothpaste in between the door jamb in the body in the B pillar, and there was this much room on a car that's new, over $100,000 for a sedan that's based on the Dodge Charger. Yeah, it's got a twin turbo V6, but who cares? There's that much space on a car that cost $100,000 between the door and the B pillar. No. Horrible decision.
It's crazy to think that Alpha has better build quality than them. When Alpha used to be technically the worst.
And now, Alpha's SCA now.
Well, of course, yeah.
But now I think Maserati's done a really good job of kind of starting to pick themselves up along with Alpha. Their cars are at the Grisale or the Tonale, which are the same car, just different brands.
I think they're also a Dodge Hornet.
Yes, the Dodge Hornet, the Tonale, and the Grisale are all the same car.
Oh, my God.
And I mean, you can literally, If I remove the badges off the interiors of the Grisale, Tonale, and Hornet, you probably couldn't tell the difference. Maybe on the Hornet, but between the Grisale and the Tonale, you couldn't tell the difference.
It's so crazy. It's actually just so crazy that
But they're the same car.
Yeah, and people will buy them because they believe they're buying a Maserati.
Right.
Like you're buying a Dodge Hornet, bro.
Yep. And I'm not to say the Hornet's bad. The Hornet is a good-looking car, and it's got a lot of tech in it. And
I heard their sales are really bad.
but the sales are bad. In fact, I mean, when we were at the dealership here, we got one in like 3 on trade. One was traded in like 4 months after they came out, which is insane to me. But like I said, Maserati has started to really pick themselves up when it comes to quality, and I think they've picked themselves up when it comes to just adapting with the times. Because before, we've got to remember, the Gran Turismo looked the same for a decade. It was so behind its competitors, its Grand Touring competitors, that it didn't make sense. Aston Martin is also bad for being behind, but the Aston Martin was at least ahead of the freaking Gran Turismo. The Gran Turismo was just, it wasn't a failure because it sold, and it looked good and it sounded good, but you shouldn't buy one because you're just going to run into problems.
Yeah.
Electronics, transmission, everything like that. The only thing you're going to get is a good sounding motor, and they're not fast. By the way, they're not fast. They're not fast at all. They are heavy Grand Touring cars. So if you're thinking you're going to get a fast, cheap car from Maserati, it's not fast. I mean, it's quick. It's just not fast. So those are my 3. I think those are pretty based in fact.
Yeah.
I think they're fair. Do not buy any of those.
Or if you do
not
buy
blame
them with
us.
caution.
Yeah, buy them with caution. If they explode, you can't blame us because we told you not to buy them in the first place. So those 6 cars, do not touch unless you're crazy or you own
or you're me.
Or you own a shop. That way you can work on your own cars. But yeah, don't buy them because you're just looking for thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars of repair bills.
Of course. So, it's going to cost you that much to be able to drive your car.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all we had for you today.
Yeah, let us know down below. Did we insult you with any of your favorite cars?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope not, but or actually, I don't really care because it's factually true.
Yeah, factually true.
It's just how it is. I mean, if you get mad at this, I'm sorry. But actually, no, I'm not sorry.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
It's crazy. I mean, you can't get mad. It's factually true.
Yeah.
These are not good cars. And if you get offended by this, go kick rocks.
Kick rocks and
go live in your fantasy world where your E60 will never break.
Yeah.
It will break.
100%.
But yeah, let us know down below what you guys think, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.